Yeah.
because the federal
Right.
assistance that come along. Just for the folks that be watching, the damage assessments are the big part of that.
Yep.
Can you emphasize what needs to be done there so if the counties and the cities
Right.
can get that aid?
Well, the way the federal process works is the damage assessment is driven by the state, and the state works hand in hand with the local government in terms of quantifying the amount of damage, both damage to public facilities and then also damage to private homes. And that quantification triggers under federal law different thresholds for funding that comes from the federal government. And my office works hand in hand both with the state in terms of submitting that information, but also with the local government. And you asked a minute ago about infrastructure, and I think your question is a very good one. I can tell you it is my view, particularly that when federal funds are being invested on rebuilding, that we should rebuild in a way that is smart. So, for example, most of us lived through Hurricane Harvey. It remains the second most damaging and costly natural disaster in U.S. history, and there were tens of billions of dollars that flowed into rebuilding following Harvey. I spent a lot of time trying to focus on let's invest that money in a way that enhances resiliency and makes us more resistant to flooding. Let's not build back in the exact same way where we repeat the same disaster. And I think that is a very important question to focus on. I think also in terms of long-term infrastructure, you've got the Ike Dike, which obviously came out of the impetus of it, came out of Hurricane Ike, but it is something that I've been working with leadership in Galveston and across the Gulf Coast for many years now, and at the federal level, championing legislation to get authorization, to get the preliminary studies, to get the Army Corps of Engineers working on the different steps for ultimately building the Ike Dike, and we're seeing the first steps of a coastal barrier being constructed already. And so for long-term infrastructure, we need to continue to make those investments, but that takes real time. You also referenced my friend Mays Middleton, and we were talking about the dunes here. I think it's a good chance maybe for Mays to share his thoughts on the dunes here on the island.
Yeah, so thank you, Senator Cruz. I was talking with Terry Leo Wilson as well. And look, the dunes were wiped out here. A lot of them were rebuilt over the past few years. I know Representative Wilson had hay bales in front of her home on the beachfront. And this needs to be a chance that we look at this and find out ways to basically remediate that and repair in a way that will help prevent this in the future, because right now those dunes are gone. So when a future storm comes in, which we're hopeful it's not, but if it does, there's not a lot there to protect homes on a barrier island, whether that's Surfside or in Galveston or Bolivar, doesn't matter. We need to make sure that we have a better way to restore those and a more sustainable way to restore those that will prevent future damages and also help stop storm surges that may come in.
And on that, Alberto had done some serious damage.
It had, yes.
Nim, did you want to add to that?
So thank you for that question. I want to direct everybody to damage.tdm.texas.gov that's there on the placard in front of Senator Cruz. If your home has been damaged, please go to damage.tdm.texas.gov and report that information. We created this app kind of like some of the car companies that if you have a wreck, you take a picture and send it in, it starts your claim. This is not an insurance claim, but this is the damage assessments that we need to send that to the White House to ask for individual assistance for our residents. The categories that were granted today were for debris cleanup cost and our emergency protective measures, our response cost. We still need to continue damage assessments with our local partners for road damage, bridge damage, building damage, and other utility and infrastructure damage. So all of those damage assessments will be ongoing. But if your home was damaged by this storm, please report those damages to damage.tdm.texas.gov.
Last question.
Lieutenant Governor or Senator Cruz, I've spoken to some of the families who lost loved ones after this, and now they're confused, they're devastated, they don't know what comes next. So really, my question is, have you been in contact with any of those families, and what is your message to them? What should they expect from leaders moving forward?
The honest answer is, in the last 48 hours, I have not. We've been managing the storm, managing a response to the storm. We tragically lost those two families where a tree fell on their loved ones, and then as Senator Cruz mentioned, the Houston Police Department, a civilian employee, drowned, and we will be in touch with them. We'll be there to help them, absolutely. I have 120 counties to see over, but as we said yesterday, our prayers are with them. and we will offer the assistance where and how we can. And then we also lost to carbon monoxide poisoning, so we will follow up with those families for sure. Senator Cruz?
Well, I think the governor's exactly right. I mean, tragically, when we have disasters like this, we see people far too frequently who there are fatalities. And in some instances, when you have someone, for example, who's a first responder, there are
Yes.
funds set up and other infrastructure set up to provide support for the family. But there's also, I think there's a really important role for the community at this point to step in and help people who are hurting, help. In particular, the churches. I think when we see disasters consistently, Texas is a big state, and it's large enough that we see whether it is this hurricane or whether it is tornadoes in Dallas, Texas, or whether it is the wildfires that were ripping apart the Panhandle just a few months ago. It's large enough that we face tragedies, and every time without fail, what happens is the community steps up, the churches step up, neighbors step up, and listen, for everyone who lost a loved one in this disaster, I would say reach out and show them love, give them support, help provide them food, help them get through the next stages, and the way we make it through this is coming together as a state, coming together as one. We are all Texans, we are one. And the phrase Texas Strong is real, and it describes who we are, and we're one community that helps each other, even in the face of grief and tragedy. That's especially when we step up and help each other.
Thanks, everyone. All the time we got.
Thank you.